In my 14 years experience in this industry, there are a few major limitations that I commonly see throughout the body. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the 3 areas that I see are the most limited, what to do about it, and why they happen. Hi, I'm Alex Effer, founder of Resilient Training and Rehab, and I've helped thousands of coaches and therapists get faster and more consistent results with their clients. Let's get into it. The first limitation that actually has a major impact on the shoulder and the hips is actually thoracic mobility. So the ability to turn your rib cage one way or the other. And so in order for that to happen, we need a couple things to be in place. First, we need the ability to open up the back part of our rib cage and the front part of our rib cage in different positions at different times. So for example, if I want to turn my rib cage towards the right, then what needs to happen is this posterior rib cage on the right side needs to open, because what's going to happen is as the rib cage turns to the right, these spinous processes or the scales of the spine are going to move away from the shoulder blade, creating more space back here. So in order for me to turn to the right, this space needs to open. And because I'm going towards the right, the front space needs to close on the right side. But the front space on the left chest actually opens. And so I get this rotation towards the right. So at different parts of the movement, I'm going to need different areas to expand. Now, traditionally, people are just saying that this is tight muscles. Tight muscles are going to impact the ability to rotate the thorax. Now, that is true, but they don't really talk about why this happens. And really what we should be thinking about is less so about what's happening on top, the superficial muscles. We should be thinking about what's happening inside. As I said, if I want to turn my rib cage towards the right, this space has to open. So if we think about the inside the rib cage, we've got these big lungs. And so when we breathe in, the lungs expand. And when those lungs expand, they are going to change the position and the shape of the rib cage. So when I breathe in, I should get this expansion in between the shoulder blades. But if I'm turning myself towards the right, then I'm going to open up this left chest and I'm going to feel a big stretch in the right upper back. Again, this is happening because the position of the rib cage and what's happening within the rib cage is going to influence what the muscles are doing. So instead of doing a bunch of windmills or open books or exercises that stretch the muscles related to thoracic mobility, be far more effective to influence what's going on within to restore that mobility. So in order to drive this internal change, we're actually doing an exercise that doesn't require that much movement. It actually is just going to drive the pressure within our body. This is going to be an offset quadruped breathing. And so essentially what this is going to do is, again, this is going to reinforce that right thoracic rotation. So how I'm going to set this up is I'm going to have a pad, something elevated, maybe just a couple inches. I'm going to put my right hand on top of it and my left hand on the ground. And both hands should be underneath or just outside of shoulder width apart, depending on whatever feels more comfortable. When it comes to my legs, I'm actually going to have my right leg come forward just a bit more than my left. And the reason for that is if my right knee comes more forward, then I'm actually going to shift more into this right hip. Because the more my right hip goes into flexion, the more the back part of the hip opens. And that's exactly what's happening to the back part of my rib cage. I want both the back part of my rib cage and the back of my pelvis to open at the same time. So when I'm getting in this position, right foot, right knee slightly staggered. So right knee forward, left leg slightly back. Because this right hand is on something that's more elevated, I'm going to have more weight naturally on this left hand. And so then when I reach and get tall through my shoulder blades, what's going to happen is because I've got more weight on this left hand, it's actually going to push me over towards the right. So when I take a big breath in, I'm actually going to feel my right upper back stretch and my left chest wall stretch. And so this type of change is going to reinforce exactly the mechanics that we talked about. So when we're doing this, really make sure that you're not crunching as you do it, but you are just bringing your chest in between your rib cage. It's almost like I'm lifting you up. I've got my hand on your chest and I'm lifting you up towards the ceiling. It's not a big movement, But the little movement that is going to create a big impact on the outcome of the exercise. And I usually just get people to stay in this position for 1 to 2 sets of about 6 big breaths in through your nose, 2 seconds. As you reach tall, exhale, hold the position for about 2 seconds. So the second area that I see is commonly limited is actually the shoulder. So that shoulder flexion, raising your arm overhead. And this really does have to do with the first mobility thing that we talked about, which is the thoracic mobility and the rib cage position. The rib cage position is going to influence what the shoulder is doing. So when we're thinking about shoulder mobility, we have to think that as the arm goes overhead, the shoulder blade is going to move with it. So as we reach this right arm overhead, the shoulder blade is going to upwardly rotate. If my rib cage is forward, or I've got this flat T-spine or this tension in between the shoulder blades, then as well as some kind of rib flare, then what's going to happen is the scapula may come up and over the rib cage. That's going to change the position of where the shoulder is, and so I'm going to have more limitation at the shoulder itself. So what you commonly see when people do this shoulder mobility and they're limited is as they go overhead, you start to see them flare their ribs, they start to lean back. You may see some people hike their shoulder, they may even side bend their neck on that side. All are compensations because they hit their end range too early instead of being able to go all the way up to the top, which means this space is open on the back. They change where their shoulder is, they hike their shoulder up, they round their shoulder forward, maybe they push their head forward. All are compensations for this limitation in shoulder mobility. So let's talk about an exercise that we're going to use in order to overcome this. I've discussed this next exercise in previous videos, but I think it's so impactful for so many reasons, and it's really good for improving shoulder mobility. And the reason for this is because we're actually going to be in an inverted position. So this inverted rock back exercise is intended to decompress the hips, but also because I'm going onto my elbows and my hips are above my shoulders, every time I breathe in, it's really going to fill my upper back and my chest with air. That change in expansion in these upper part of the rib cage, that's what's key for improving shoulder mobility. So when we're setting up for this exercise, I want you to go onto something that's a couple inches tall. It could be a couple pillows. It could be a couple books, anything that's going to put your hips above your shoulders. Then what you're going to do is you're going to drop your elbows down. Now, I prefer to have people have their elbows out in more of a triangle position versus in line with their shoulders, just because a lot of people who don't have that shoulder mobility, they don't have the space to get there, so they arch their back, they shrug their shoulders, maybe even round their shoulders when they do this. So have the elbows in more of a V-type position. You're gonna have your palms on the ground with your index finger and your thumbs touching. What you should feel is you shouldn't feel too much weight on your shoulders. You shouldn't feel too much weight on your knees. You should bring your chin so it's in line with your thumbs. You're then going to inhale as we get tall through our shoulders, very similar to the previous exercise. It's just a minimal reach of the chest up towards the ceiling, no crunching. And I'm going to exhale, hold the position. So breathe in, get tall through my elbows. You feel a big stretch in the upper back, maybe even the lower rib cage, and then you're going to breathe out, hold the position. You do a 2 seconds inhale, 2 seconds exhale, 1 to 2 sets of 6 breaths. So the third area that's commonly limited is hip mobility. And so this is hip flexion, this is hip internal rotation, hip external rotation. Anything to do with the hip can be limited. And again, we talked about the rib cage first because it has such a powerful influence on the pelvis. And so when the rib cage flares or I've got too much tension in the rib cage, that's going to shift my center of gravity forward. So my rib cage is going to flare. That is going to cause the pelvis to dump forward. Now, it's a chicken or the egg situation. Did the pelvis create the rib cage change or the rib cage create the pelvis change? Sometimes it's one or the other, but remember, the lungs are inside of our ribs, and so it's a major pressure area. We breathe 20,000 times a day plus, and so every breath It's going to influence the pressure in the body, which is going to influence the shape of the pelvis. And so just based on that, if we were to say the rib cage is going to drive what the pelvis is doing, you're going to be accurate with that. And so when we think about the hip has a socket. So the femur goes into the socket. If my pelvis dumps forward, that's going to change where the socket is. And if that change the socket happens, that's going to limit certain motions at my hip. So if the pelvis is dumped forward, then what's going to happen is that's going to put my hip into a slightly flexed position already. So when I bring my hip up, I'm going to become limited because I've hit my end range early, very similar to the shoulder. If I've got a shoulder that's more rounded forward, that's going to influence how much shoulder flexion I have. Same thing with the hip. If I arch through my lower back, my hip is going to be flexed. That is then going to cause a limitation of the hip to be able to lift up. And so when we're thinking about opening that space up, we need to think about opening up the back and opening up the front of the hip just to be able to put the socket in a better position to allow mobility to happen fluently. So we have to open up the pelvis. We also have to shift the weight back towards our heels to unload the pelvis and reinforce mobility through the hips. So to improve hip flexion, I really like to use squatting variations. And I really like this one in particular because we're elevating the heels, which is going to shift the center of gravity back. We're holding on to cables, which is going to inherently pull us towards the machine. So we have to shift back against it. So remember, I have to open up the back side of my body in order to improve hip mobility. So what I need to do is I need to open up in between the shoulder blades, open up the back part of the hips. The heel's elevation is going to pull me forward, so is the cable. So I have to shift back towards my heel. That inherently opens up the back part of my body. And so when we're doing this exercise, there's a couple key things to think about. First, we want to stay heel heavy, but we also want to maintain pressure on the balls of our toes. So we don't want to be too much into our toes. We want to think about 20% in our toes, 80% in our heel. With the cable, you're going to allow the cable to pull you forward a little bit. Very similar to the other two exercises where the chest is coming in between the shoulder blades. Opening that up, I don't want you to round the shoulder forward. I don't want you to let it pull you with it. I want you to maintain the same height and you're just going to lean back slightly. And you'll feel the shoulder blades wrap around the rib cage. Then what you're going to do is as you breathe in, you're going to descend, driving the knees forward as your hips go straight down. Don't think about a horizontal movement. I don't want your hips to go back. I want you to go straight down as your knees go forward, but you're staying heel heavy. So you don't want your knees to go too far forward because if that happens, then you're losing your heel. If you go too far back, you're going to be losing your toes. So you want to maintain that mid position in between the toes and the heels. You're going to breathe in as you go down. You're going to breathe out as you come up, pushing through the heels and the balls of the big toe. Every time you do a rep, you can reset just to get that little reach because the important thing with doing this is that we are getting the right areas open. And so to do that, we need to have the right foot contacts and we need to make sure that we're able to open up that upper part of the rib cage as we're doing the movement. I like doing this as a warm-up, 1 to 2 sets of 8 reps, or I like doing this as part of the resistance training. So you can do this 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 15 reps. Again, all of it is going to drive the same outcome, so make sure you're really intentional with how we execute the exercise. So we talked about 3 different areas of the body, the rib cage, the shoulder, as well as the hips, in terms of them being commonly limited in a lot of people that I've worked with. We've also talked about 3 different strategies in order to overcome it, as well as why some of these situations may occur. And again, I didn't really talk much about muscles. I talked more about the position of the joints and how those may impact muscles. So instead of stretching a bunch of these muscles like our hip flexors, stretching or foam rolling our upper back, maybe our chest, we could do things by thinking about what's happening inside and how those impact what's going on the outside. If you found this helpful, don't forget to like, save, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.